80 to 90% of people fall at this first hurdle. There is no Rolex waiting list. It does not exist. I reckon I've probably had 30, maybe 50 Rolex sports watches. Play the game in the right way, and I'm going to share the rules of the game with you in this video. Hi, welcome back to the video and the channel. It's me, Brendan. Good to see you again. And today I want to talk about how you can get a Rolex sports watch from an authorized dealer. It seems like there's this mystique around authorized dealers that you just can't get access to the best watches. The Submariners, the GMTs, the Daytonas. By the way, I'm wearing my Zenith Daytona today. Loving this watch, and I will do a proper review soon. Cannot get enough of this. Super pumped to even own this watch. And I personally think it beats modern day Daytonas hands down, but that's another discussion. So we're going to get into everything in this video. Make sure you're subscribed if you like watch content, fragrance content, lifestyle, travel, that kind of stuff. And give me a thumbs up and leave a comment with your feedback, with your reflections on this video, so we go on this journey of growth together. So let's talk about Rolex authorized dealers. As I say, there's this kind of mystique. You can't get it. They're all out to rob you, to con you. I just don't necessarily agree with that at all. And I'm going to share my perspective on this. So I've had and been fortunate to have a number of Rolex watches allocated to me by the authorized dealers. And I'll start first by saying there is no Rolex waiting list. It does not exist. I'm sure they're even trying to hide the fact that there is a waiting list anymore. But if you think that you're going to walk in and be placed on a waiting list and you're number 10 or 100 or 1,000, it's just not true at all. Essentially what the dealers are getting is they're getting allocated X number of pieces on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, and they are allocating it preferentially to the people that they want to allocate the watch to. So on the first hand, you might look at that and say, well, that's really unfair because he's or she's going to get it before I am. Well, yeah, but on the other side of that, it's an opportunity for you to play the game in the right way, and I'm going to share the rules of the game with you in this video. And my background with this is I reckon I've probably had 30, maybe 50 Rolex sports watches. I would include the date just in there as well, desirable date, just like the Wimbledon and the mint dial and the Azzurro blue dial I've been fortunate to have as well. And I have never had any real issues, but it started for me with calling in and making connections with people. And I'm nothing special. I'm not some Man City footballer that's just going to get allocated everything. Not at all. I'm a normal person, and I'm playing by the same game and rules of the game that you might be playing by as well, wherever you are in the world. And by the way, this applies to everywhere in the world. I've had conversations with people in the USA, Miami, Geneva, even in the Middle East, in Asia, and so on. And this seems to be the play here. So the first thing you've got to be is patient. That is the number one thing. If you think you're going to walk into a dealer and get allocated a brand new Daytona or a ceramic bezel, a ceramic GMT or something like that, it's just not going to happen at all. And I think 80 to 90% of people fall at this first hurdle. They simply are not prepared to make a relationship. You know, this is a business transaction. They're doing business with you. And business is about people. Business is about relationships. So if you are not prepared to go and put that effort in and meet those people and have conversations and show that you are passionate about watches, that you are passionate about the watch that you are after, and so on and so forth, you're never going to get allocated these pieces. Somebody else will get the nod before you, and frankly, rightly so. If you start off with giving and visiting and showing intent, then you are on to a winner. You are going to get the piece that you want. And I would suggest to you that go in and meet with the sales staff, whoever you get allocated, whoever's there on the day, but do not think that either they're going to write your name down that day or that anything's really going to happen then. I think you want to be considering a monthly to bi-monthly minimum visit to just catch up with those people. Show your face, show that you're there, stay front of mind, and show that you're keen on the watch that you are actually after. And that will stand you in good stead. And I would suggest to you that right now, we've gone through that ridiculous hype boom where every man and his dog wanted to buy a Submariner or a Rolex. We are now in a time when the waiting lists are down, disposable income probably isn't where it was. Yes, of course, the super hyped pieces, the Pepsis, the Daytonas, etc., are going to be challenging for you, but starting with a slightly lower demand piece like a Submariner or a GMT Batman, for example, or a two-tone, you are going to have an opportunity on those pieces. So be realistic. The timeline to get to the Panda Daytona like I've got on today, albeit an older version, that timeline is going to be a while. That's a journey. Consider collecting Rolexes as a journey, not just bang, there it is, there's the watch, completed it. Doesn't matter how much money you've got, it will take you years to move through that and enjoy each and every piece along the way. So what should you go for to begin with? Well, nearly always the dealer will ask you for maybe 3 pieces that you're interested in. I know that's the way that they're doing it now with the group I'm with, Watches of Switzerland Goldsmiths. And if you've got 3 pieces, don't go with a black dial Daytona, a white dial Daytona and a Pepsi, because all 3 of them are incredibly difficult. They probably wouldn't even allow you to register for that. Go with a sensible pathway. You might go with a classic Submariner date, you might then add a Batman, and then maybe you go with a Daytona off the back of that, knowing that that's down the pike, so to speak. And then you can work towards that first Submariner. And I would genuinely consider that to be a year-long journey. So if you get it in less time than that for your first piece, you win. If you plan and you're happy with 1 year, then great, that's great. Keep the money in your bank, get ready to spend it when you get the call. But give it a year and think about going in every 6 weeks to 2 months, something like that, maybe even more frequently if you're in the area, and do it in that way so that you are showing your face, you're staying relevant, you are legit, you've got your local, go to the local branch and you can be there more regularly with less hassle to you. Just the story works, doesn't it, that way? Now, if you are not a patient individual, you want the watch now, well, your decision is made for you. You have to go grey market. You're going to pay a little bit more for those watches. You're going to pay a few grand for a Submariner. You're probably going to pay an extra 5 or 6 or 7 grand for a Pepsi, maybe even more, and you're going to pay 10 or 15 grand more for a Daytona. That is the premium for being impatient. It's simple. That is your choice. If you're impatient, you pay the premium. Done. There are certain models that make more sense to buy on the grey market. You can get them now. Maybe they're not particularly profitable in terms of investment value and so on and so forth. I'm thinking things like the two-tone GMT, the Guinness. I had that watch from Watches of Switzerland a couple of years ago. 6 or 7 months after it was released. Beautiful, beautiful watch. But that piece, the value's fluctuated. Maybe it makes more sense to go to the grey market. You might pay a small premium, probably not a lot, but you get the watch you want. But here's the thing, consider that the watch that you buy today from the AD aids you towards the watch that you are allocated tomorrow. Your spend history goes up, the dealers value that, they add, if you like, points to your account for that, and you're more likely to get the Pepsi if you've already bought the Datejust and the Submariner, for example. So it's a really important part of the process to consider your strategy long term. If you really love the Submariners, the Datejust, that kind of thing, then go and get them from an authorised dealer. Just be a little bit patient. It will pay you back because you'll get allocated pieces that you really love further down the line, and you'll get them so much cheaper, and you're getting a brand new watch, nobody's touched it before, from the authorised dealer. For me, it's a worthwhile trade, generally speaking. Now, another thing to consider with this is the dial and the configuration of the piece. So something like a sub date is pretty straightforward. You're going with a black dial. You might go with the green bezel, the Kermit, but frankly, it's pretty much done for you, that one. Where you have a lot more choice are in the Datejust range, where you've got lots of different dials, certainly different configurations of Daytonas as well. But dial massively influences the demand of the piece. So if you are not too fussed about having a top dial, like I say, a mint Datejust, a blue dial Datejust, the Wimbledon dial Datejust, then that's great because you'll get allocated that piece much, much sooner. So really think through the configurations of the piece, whether you want, so say like diamond dial, something like that, and they will register for you the watch with the specific dial. They're not going to say any Datejust, any Daytona that comes in, Brendan's good for it. They will register you for that watch with that dial, with that particular bezel, and so on and so forth. So be clear on what you want, and you have got a much greater chance of being allocated a lower demand dial for sure, but that will affect the long-term value of that piece. That's a different video when we're talking about the dreaded watches as investments, for sure, totally different video. But consider the fact that the dial probably influences the value of the watch more than anything else. It can literally be a 10, 15, 20, even on higher end watches, tens of thousands, 50 grand, 100 grand for certain pieces, because they've got such a specific in-demand or rare dial. So my first Rolex watch that I got from the authorised dealer was, believe it or not, the Rolex Deep Sea Sea Dweller, black dial as well. And that was my first piece. It was a massive stretch for me financially, and the price has gone up way, way more from then. It was around about 8,000 UK pounds. And one of the clients that I was coaching back then, he was wearing the Deep Sea. He'd been really successful, sold his business for loads of money, retired in his late 30s. And I looked at him and I was like, that's the watch. And you see the watch over and over and over and over and over, and you want it even more, don't you? So that was my first watch. And at this point in time, I'm talking well over 10 years ago, you could buy any of these sports models, other than maybe the Daytona, in the shop window. You could go in and say, yeah, I'll have that one, please. And it's done. You could walk out with it. And Goldsmiths in Leeds, where I lived, made that a really special moment. I went in with my wife. It was genuinely a real stretch. I'd had a good year in my business at the time. And I was just maybe 30 years old, 28, 30, something like that. And it was like, right, now it's the time. And off the back of that, I'd already had an Omega and a Breitling, but not from an authorised dealer. So I had no spend history at all. I went in and bought that watch. And off the back of that, it started a relationship that then allowed me to go right up the Rolex collecting ladder, let's say. And I went to GMTs, I got the Batman, and then eventually I got the Pepsi. The Pepsi, believe it or not, I only was allocated that maybe a year or 2 years ago. And that was one of the longest waits I've ever had. I was allocated multiple date just, the Wimbledon dial, the Azzurro blue, the fluted mint dial. I was allocated that. I was fortunate enough to get multiple Oyster Flex Daytonas. I had the yellow gold, what do they call it, the Pikachu, the yellow gold. I think Charlie Walker has championed that piece. It is a great piece. I got the rose gold chocolate dial, which is a stunning, stunning watch. I've also got the white gold in my collection now as well. The Ghost, beautiful. That's probably been my favorite and the longest lasting in my collection. I've had full gold pieces, Daytonas. I've had multiple. I've had the root beer, the two-tone root beer as well. And the Grail, I got the Panda Steel Daytona as well. And the most recent I've had right at the top of the tree, which was a true celebration. It's basically my 40th birthday after a really good couple of years in the business as well, was the Platinum Diamond Bezel Daytona. And that piece almost was the kind of like, wow, I'm so proud and pleased to own this, but really was started right at the beginning. And my message to you is, wherever you want to go on your Rolex journey, you need patience, but you can get there by being reliable, being patient, continuing to visit and work with these dealers, being loyal to that dealer, and you will be rewarded. It's simple as that. And for me, there's also something else here. Patience, it's one of the principles I talked about in a recent video. You should check it out, Principles to Live Your Life By. There's something that makes the watch more special when you do have to wait a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, 6 years to wait for something and maybe never get it, I get that. I know what you mean. It's frustrating and so on. But waiting 6 months to even 2 or even 3 years and buying one or more watches along that way and enjoying them, it's not a bad thing. The watch means more when it does actually arrive, as long as you're enjoying the pieces that you are being allocated. I definitely don't recommend buying watches for the sake of buying them. You really need to like the watch, you really need to want the watch, and we're talking about large amounts of money here as well. So don't buy something that you don't like, but go and familiarize yourself with the range. Don't just go online or watch the influencer and say, I want that one. Actually go in and get hands-on with some of these pieces, because what you'll find is you might love the Submariner more than the GMT. You might love the Datejust. You might want a 36 instead of a 40. You might love two-tone instead of steel. And you will find that that influences the allocations. For example, two-tone watches are way lower demand than steel watches. So if you love a two-tone, say, Submariner, or if you love the two-tone Daytona, you've got a fantastic chance of getting those pieces if you are a little bit patient. It won't come tomorrow or the next day, but it might well come this quarter or next quarter. Now, the last point I want to address is this one about being forced to buy other things. Like if you want a Rolex, they give you the Omega. If you want this, you have to buy a lot of jewelry and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I have not found that to be the case. I have not found that to be the case. They have never pushed me or steered me in that direction at all. Now, I want to be clear, I have bought some jewellery for my wife in that period of time, in this last 10 years. I think I bought some for her birthday, her 40th. I bought some for a celebratory moment, a wedding anniversary, that kind of thing. But we are not jewellery people overall. We are, or I am anyway, a watch person. And I have not gone down that path, and nor have I been forced or steered to do that. So I don't think that's relevant. I've heard stories of authorised dealers saying, you know, buy the Omega, buy the whatever, and we'll give you the Rolex. If that's the case, then my advice will be don't, because frankly, if you've got your heart set on a Rolex and you go and spend decent money on a Breitling or an Omega or a different watch that's not that brand, it will never scratch the itch for you. My guess is within 6 months you'll be selling it, losing money and pining for the Rolex. And I don't necessarily think that's the place. So be patient. If you want a watch in the meantime, go with a fantastic micro brand watch like a Baltic or a Hamilton, or they're a micro brand, but go with a Tissot PRX, something like that. Be patient, it will serve you well. Or pay the premium and go to the grey market. So there you go, that's my thoughts and my experience getting Rolex professional sports watches from authorised dealers. If you like this video, make sure you comment, and comment with your experience. What have you experienced? Have I got this wrong? Am I talking absolute nonsense here? Tell me in the comments, give me a thumbs up or even a thumbs down. And if you want more watch collecting content, then subscribe to the channel. Got a ton of stuff lined up. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you, and good luck with your collecting journey. And make sure you comment with the next watch. What's your 3 pieces that you would put on your authorised dealer allocation list right now if you walked into your shop, local Rolex dealership? What would they be? Comment below, and maybe we'll do some 3 watch combo review type stuff as well. I'll see you on the next one.